Well, thank you for having us. I'm Monica Utley. I'm the Executive Director of Tillys Life Center.
And my name is Christine Carey. I'm the Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs, and we're super grateful to be here with you, Ed. Thank you.
And I'm Tilly Levine. And a lot of you might know me from the stores, Tillys clothing stores, that basically me and my ex-husband, Chezi Shaked, founded it in 1982. We were very young and we had no money. And we worked maybe 7 years without a day off. And we have a vision and we had a dream, and we were moving with a pace we could. Didn't try to do what is not affordable. And we opened the first store in 1982, and slowly over 30 years, and 35 years now or more actually. What is it?
I'll tell you exactly. It's 30, almost 39, because that's the year I graduated from high school. So I'm very
my
aware
God.
that my 40th reunion's coming up.
I don't know where the time
Can't
goes.
be that old yet. Yeah.
We were very involved with the community. We believed in karma, that whatever you give, you get back. And we have to help each other and create good energy around us. And we cannot succeed alone. We have to succeed with everybody around us, then involved with us, should succeed too. So that was kind of the motto. And Tillys has a tradition of helping youth, because that was our target. And we actually, when was it? Was the first tournament, it was like maybe 14, 15 years ago that I was 50 and I'm 65, 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, instead of having a birthday party, in the last minute, we changed the birthday party, and I said, instead of getting gifts, I want to do something to help the youth. So we turned it into a golf tournament that became an annual tradition. And at that money that we raised, we built up 2 Tillys home in Trabuco Canyon that were operating with a couple that they have their own kids and their own family. And they were just taking care of kids that has to leave their homes, the parents in jail or on drugs or whatever. So that was something that we really put our main effort in, and we gave them backpacks twice a year in Christmas and back to school, and we knew each kid by size, by color. We got our employees involved to come and do talent show for them and cooking lessons, and my husband even took some of them to golf lessons. And what I saw following those kids for over 6 years, that wow, we put in all this money, all this effort, and we are not solving the problem. And that was like awakening. God, we need something that changed their mind. Because as long as they feel that they are disadvantaged, they will be. Because thought creates their feelings, and feelings create their behavior. And basically, we need to teach them to change their mindset.
Yeah,
and that's how.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's how TLC came out.
Excellent. Yeah, I have notes of things I want to ask, but it's not scripted. So I'm going to go completely off script here for a minute, since there technically isn't one. In some of the YouTube talks and the commencement addresses you've given, and a lot of the videos that I've watched, and we'll put links to a lot of these up on this podcast later, you've talked about that power of positive thinking. So before we go into Tillys Life Center, and really before we even get into Tillys, the clothing store and the foundation in 82, I'd like to go back. Where did that start with you? When you go back to your childhood or your teenage years?
So it's a really funny story, actually, that you ask it, because we had a reunion of elementary school, that like 40 years elementary school reunion. And I went and I saw this little girl that she's not little anymore, that used to be like abused and bullied with everybody. And I told her, you know what? I have to really thank you. Because of you, we have TLC now. Because I remember I was kind of a rebelling kid, and I have no fear, so I was always protecting the underground, and actually came to a point that all the boys boycott me actually, because they were, trying to
You were
bully the
bad
girls.
news, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had to. They helped me so much that I have to leave the class. I had to leave the class and go to, and I didn't know what to do. So I decided I'm going to join the class above me, and they were already allowed to go to Girl Scouts. So that was kind of a benefit. But they actually eventually the class came back and asked me to come back. So that was nice. So there is a silver lining.
Sure.
And so I think from early childhood, I was always thinking that you have a special power in your mind, and you need to use it in a positive way. And that will help you to achieve what you want. And you really have to set your vision and to know what you want. So that was a gift. And later on, after Tillys actually went public, and I had an opportunity to actually have more time, and I was blessed enough to have the financial resources. I kind of thought about it, that maybe my whole journey with Tillys was that I can fulfill this destiny that I have from my childhood, that I actually need to help our youth to get the right tools, to find the right path, and to be the best they can be. And it's interesting because our first store was actually Los Alamitos and Westminster, but those two got moved to Huntington Beach and Cypress because we changed location. So actually our main headquarters was Huntington Beach. And I remember going at lunchtime to watch the kids in high school, watch them going to see what they're wearing, what shoes, what backpack. And it was very interesting. The first district, even though we moved to Irvine and I live in Dana Point, the first district that opened the door for us in public school was Huntington Beach. So it has to be beyond me.
Yeah, I think you're a big believer, like I am, that there are no accidents. Things happen for a reason, and it's on us to figure out what those reasons
are.
are.
And the universe did what needs to be done, so I'm so lucky to be able to fulfill my destiny, because I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
No, that's fantastic.
And even to get even closer to this, I had to get sick so I can read Louise Hay book in a detox place. So I have the opportunity to spiritually get to where I need to be. And that's, by the way, how I got introduced to Christine, because Louise Hay, her book, You Can Heal Yourself, or You Can Heal Your Life, is a foundation really for the method. And Christine, what was the title you have?
I was a facilitator for the Heal Your Life work at the time when we connected.
So they gave me a list of maybe 80 people that were certified so they can help with the material. Because when I came back from this detox, within 3 months, I had a trademark, I have a business plan, I have a whole vision what I want to achieve, and then Louisa was very impressed with everything is already done and ready to go, and she was ready to help us because her program was only actually for adults, and we were thinking, why don't they give those tools to the kids in their crucial time when the brain is emotionally developing, and they can save themselves so much pain. They can be better person, better parents, better leaders, better employees if they have the right tools and they learn how to let go of negativity from their life, and the power of love and the power of acceptance, how that can change your life and let you achieve anything you want. So that was like also not accident that I picked up Christine out of 80 people. It was the only person that I saw. I didn't even interview her. I just walked in and felt her energy and I said, okay, you're hired.
Nice.
So that's how it started.
Excellent.
And from there, it was 2012. We thought we'd just doing like an empowerment program for teenagers, some kind of, we decided about 12 classes because it's a cycle of a year. It's a good number for change and growth. And we thought, oh, that's gonna be it. So after we brainstormed it for a weekend together with like eight of us, we came up with a curriculum. And we went to Boys and Girls Club in San Juan Capistrano. And we had a very good leader there that opened the door to us. We actually presented in a city hall meeting to the kids. And we have 16 spots and they filled right away. And that was our first pilot. And we all couldn't believe what happened in 6 weeks. We could not believe what happened in 6 weeks. It was twice a week for 6 weeks. And kids that tried to kill themselves and went through a year and a half of therapy, bloomed, get to be A students and went to college after that. And we couldn't believe it because the age group, the brain is not fixed yet emotionally. So they can grasp new language. Emotionally very, very quick, and not like adults need to repeat it and repeat it and repeat
Sure.
it because it's just like a new language.
Yeah.
So that was a beginning, and our goal was to actually get it into regular public schools in that it will be a class just like math and English, that giving the kids the tools how to deal with their challenges in a positive way, how to communicate, how to believe in themselves, love their neighbor, feel that they can be whatever they want and they can, and they are not a failure and they are not afraid. So we at that time was only working after school program. We were in J. Sarah in a continuation school. And somebody connected me. Actually, it was Hurley. It was the Hurley that was connected to the superintendent at that time in Huntington Beach. And we had lunch, and we started explaining into program. And I said, you know what? Action is the best. Let's not talk. Let's go visit the class.
Let's just go do it. Yeah.
Let's go visit the class. So we dropped our lunch and we went to see the class in JSR, and it was I'm Forgiving, that it's a very important class. And it was a girl there, 15 with a baby, but that's why she was in a continuation school, because she had a baby and she couldn't go to school, and she was raped by her uncle. And she did forgiveness and got so much support from the kids and realized that she doesn't agree to what happened to her. But if she keeps reliving the trauma, she will never be happy, or her baby. And she was able to do this forgiveness, and he was, wow, I must have it. I must have this in my school. And that's the first time we actually received a class at 8 o'clock in the morning, bell time, worst class you can imagine. They were all in trouble. That was their last chance not to get dropped from high school. And I mean, they were coming to school so tired. We have to bring them breakfast just so they can function. And it was 17 kids, and out of them, 15 came back to school and graduated and became sober. And it was a miracle that was just the beginning, that this is a must. This needs to be mandatory. This is how we're going to change this world to be a better place to live in.
Yeah, start at that foundation with the kids. Absolutely. Let me read, for those that are not familiar with the Life Center, I'd like to read from your website the mission statement. And then Monica, if you don't mind, I'd like to start with you after. I'll ask you a question about your role as the executive director. And then Christine, I'd like to hear more about that program you talked about, and then maybe some of the other programs you're doing? Because I know we have a lot of people watching and listening who probably have teens who are at risk, and it's not what I've learned, and I know you know this better than I do. It's not discriminatory to people who have maybe grown up with nothing. There's a lot of teenagers who come from very great, wealthy, strong families
100%.
who are very much at risk because of the environment they've been in, maybe just because of choices they've made that might not have much to do with the environment. So let me read what I found on your site. It says Tillys Life Center is a youth-focused 501c3 nonprofit charitable foundation aimed at empowering all teens with a positive mindset and enabling them to effectively cope with crisis, adversity, and tough decisions. Our mission is to inspire today's youth to reach their full potential as productive, kind, happy, and responsible individuals. I love that. I love every word of that mission. Monica, I'd like to start with you as the executive director. Tell me a little bit about your role and how that mission draws you into the work that you're doing.
Well, I had the good fortune of actually working at Tillys. So I've been in the marketing department at a role there. So I've been with Tillys Life Center since inception. And in 2015, I had my son, and it really sort of made me reevaluate my life and what I wanted to do on a daily basis. And luckily, already being connected to Tillys Life Center, I was able to transition over to the role of executive director and really help this organization grow and experience a job where on a day-to-day basis, I get to have more purpose and meaning in my life. And, you mentioned, all youth are at risk, and the numbers that we are seeing, the rates of teen suicide and anxiety and depression are just skyrocketing. Even before the pandemic, the number of suicide in youth ages 10 to 24 from 2007 to 2017 had increased 56%. 1 in 5 teens has a diagnosable mental health condition. Homicide rates have increased 26%. And actually, we all know the pandemic's been a struggle for all of us, but especially for teenagers who feel isolated and afraid. The CDC just released new numbers a couple of weeks ago that 1 in 4 teens who responded to their survey had contemplated suicide over the past year.
Wow.
And when you look at that number compared to adults, it's more than double.
Yeah, I've talked a lot with people about I could not have done my teenage years now. I mean, my life was about social, my friends, baseball, football, working, just being out and about, going to Brea Mall, all these things that I just did normally as a teenager that have been taken away from our youth right now because of this. And man, I'm very impacted by those numbers you just shared, but I'm also realizing that a lot of us, the 5 of us probably couldn't have done it, or the 4 of us. So
well, that's why we're taking a preventative and a proactive approach. We're trying to get ahead of this. And, there are so many intervention and reactionary programs out there, which are great, but we're trying to avoid, our youth needing those resources. And we're so fortunate that schools are also having those conversations and realizing that there's a need for social emotional learning within the classroom. So
yeah.
Grateful for
I
that.
appreciate that. Christine, in your role with academic affairs, I'm sure that things may have shifted for all of us, but I'm sure in your role, it's probably shifted pretty dramatically in the last 10 months or so. Talk about anything you'd like, but one of the questions I have is how have things shifted from pre-COVID to now? And then what does the future in 2021 and beyond look like?
Sure. So you are correct. It has drastically shifted, and
Mhm.
schools are scrambling to just get support to their students. We're lucky that we have such strong partnerships going into this. And, when COVID hit, we knew that we had to create something that we would still be able to connect with the students. And we just got to it right out of the gate, and we pivoted and we created a virtual series. And in doing so, we do it in TLC style. We made it very interactive, and it's live. So the kids are still with their facilitators that typically teach TLC in the classroom. And we made, we made the slides and everything's very enticing and very interactive for the kids to keep their attention, because as you know, they're on the screen so much now, and they're burnt out from being on the screen. And we wanted to have it be an experience that they wanted to, do. And we've gotten great feedback. We've been able to retain most of our programming. And most of the teens or the students, their feedback is that TLC is their most favorite class for many reasons. I think one, because they get to talk about and they get to be heard during the class. And it is also interactive. I'll give you an example. Last Wednesday, as you know, everybody went back to full virtual learning. They were trying to do a hybrid. And so some kids were on campus, but they pivoted back on Wednesday. And as we all know, Wednesday was a very crazy day in the United States. And I was teaching a class. I taught 2 classes that day at Ocean View High School. And I mean, the kids were crumbling.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm like you. I think about it and I take it here from the heart.
Yeah.
And so the teacher and I, the class was, I am happy. And in that class, we talked about how worry and resentment and anger and things, emotions like that can interfere with happiness. And the big focus in that class is worrying. And they're always so authentic. Students are so authentic. And I'm always just not surprised, but just wowed by their response and what they come to the table with. And they had a ton of worries that day. You know, they had the worry of, am I ever going to be with my friends again? Is this going to end? What is happening in this country? I mean, all of it is just being, oozed out on the platform that day. And we were able to be there and tell them, like, not only be there for them, but give them tools that they could use that are viable, to work through those worries, and also give them support, and share our experience and let them know that in their teen mind, they might not see an end to a lot of this, but we know that there will be. And we got to do some exercises, but more than that, just support them and tell them, like, a lot of the kids were saying how they were afraid they were going to fail high school because this virtual learning component's difficult, and they're not getting what they need to actually graduate. And so we talked about, okay, so what does that look like? What support do you need to make this happen? What are the answers? Because sometimes I think right now the world is so busy resolving so many issues. I don't know that everybody is there to support them and actually sit down and mentor them. I'm sure they have great mentors in their lives besides us, but actually say, do you need a tutor? Do you need to do a study group? Do you just need to talk to us about it or whatever? So it was beautiful to be in that class and actually see it in action, and make a difference. When Tilly was sharing the story about the development of TLC, I wanted to tell the other end of it because it really shows the synchronicity and the power of why this was created. But I was with Heal Your Life, and I was driving them bananas, trying to get them to start a teen program, because I had been doing this work for many, many years, but in my heart, and I believe my purpose was always to help and empower teens, because I had such a crazy experience as a teenager, right? And I was bugging, and nobody was really into it. And they're like, no, we're for adults. And I'm all, but what if we did it for teens? Because then they wouldn't have to do the stuff when they're adults.
Exactly. We can solve the problem rather than putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
Yeah, instead of when you're getting a divorce or whatever, the wheels are falling off, then you go to the workshops. I'm all, what if the workshops are for teens? So I was, spinning my wheels on that end. And this is total synchronicity. This is how I believe it works too. And Tilly called me and I had no idea who she was, and I couldn't make her accent out the first time I talked to her. She said, meet me at Mother's. And that was, I was all in, and she was, we just knew. So it's been a wild ride. And you did say for the future, what do we hope to see in the future? I think Tilly said it already. We hope that it's mandated, whether it's our curriculum or a social emotional learning curriculum. I know that I believe, and everyone on this call believes, and many believe, that this is the missing component in education today. The Common Core is extremely important, for success. But if we don't get social emotional learning in there, so many kids are not going to be able to pull it off. I mean, it's just a different world, and they need that now. And I see the future of, programs like TLC and other programs being mainstream in high schools.
I hope so. Yeah, because I know, like we talked about, if this was happening when I was a teenager, I'm not sure where my emotional state of
Right.
mind might have been. Teenage years are hard enough as they are. And,
Right.
and granted, some of the hard things about being a teenager is the social pressure. So maybe the silver lining a little bit, if we're going to
Right.
search for that for a moment, is maybe there's a little less of that right now
There is.
than potentially there was before. Tilly, there's so many questions I could ask. I'd like to ask a question without giving away names or anything, because certainly we're all about protecting, and you more than ever in what you do, protecting confidentiality. Is there a story, if you were sitting down with someone like you are now with us today, or speaking to executives or families or what have you, and you wanted to share one story about a boy or a girl who they've come back to you and said, wow, without this program, I'm not sure where I'd be. And maybe I'll ask each of you, is there a story that
Yeah,
comes to mind for you that you'd like to share? Because I'd love to
each
have the
one of
people
us
listening to
can say a
inspire.
story.
Yeah, please.
Before we get there, I just wanted to
Yeah.
mention something, because maybe people that don't know how it actually works.
Okay.
But TLC, we actually have right now 48 classes of between 50 to 90 minutes, depends on what the school actually can give us. And we meet the kids either once a week or twice a week. The teacher is just sitting there and grading or whatever, and we run the class. And it's a continuation. So it's not like highlight of you come and do a little health course. It's every week. It's every week. It's every week. New challenge come. They have question to answer. They have journal to write. And they have the support of the peer, that it's huge. If a kid go to therapy, he feels abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
But if he sit at a class and all his friends has the similar problems or different problem, he can help in one way, the other one can help. The power of the group is huge for teenagers. So this is why it's so successful. And obviously, a lot of people ask, what happens if something really bad happened and kids lose control? Since 2012, it never happened, because the principle is, be aware of your crisis, because if you have no awareness, you cannot fix it.
Right.
But we always live with a positive outcome, so we don't leave them in the tragedy. Oh, we are so sorry for you, it's so bad, I understand. No, we don't want to feel sorry for him, because the minute you feel sorry for them, then they feel weak, then they feel they're less.
And they start to feel like, wow, there might be something wrong with me. If they're feeling sorry for me, what's wrong with me?
Exactly. So the energy in a class is always positive. Then they start feeling good.
Yeah.
So here we go. From here, I'll tell you a story that I actually remember very, very strong from the first pilot we did in San Juan. And we were in a class of I'm Forgiving again. And that class, that usually in the end of the class, they feel really, really good, because they were able to release a lot of negativity and they feel good. We finished the class and this one kid doesn't want to go home. I said, what's wrong? Why didn't you want to go home? He said, well, my dad is yelling at me that I'm just like my mother. My mother left, and I start throwing things up, and I'm going into my room and I can do homework, and I'm just feeling good now. I don't want it to end. I said, okay, what's the tools you got today? How do we get rid of negativity? We have to use positive words and positive thinking. So let's think about, instead of the way you normally react, and it's very negative and there is a confrontation and a conflict and feeling bad, let's choose a word like hope. That makes you feel good, right? And when your dad starts yelling at you, just tell him, I hope one day you will see that I'm not like her. I hope one day you see I'm my own person. And just go to your room and do your homework. Don't get into negativity. It took 3 days for his dad to stop yelling at him. 3 days.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And he learned a tool how to deal with negativity. That's awesome. 15, yeah. At age 15.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 56 and I'm just learning. So yeah. So
other people's
so the target of the program is basically age 13 to 28. Okay. We actually have a class also in UCI and a college. that a professor there did our training, and he's teaching it for 5 or 6 years already in a Department of Education as a mental youth development.
Boy, let's get this into every university in America, because I see it. I work full-time at Cal State Fullerton, and I teach part-time at UC Riverside, and I've been at USC, and I've have an alliance of colleagues that are in universities all over North America that I talk to on a regular basis. And there's just the field's white. I mean, there's so much there ready to be harvested. And boy, if one thing comes from this podcast today, it'll be that more people will see the need, not just for the 13-year-olds, but the 25-year-olds. I mean, that's the age of a lot of our kids and nieces and nephews. And we've all had crises in our lives that are making us really look at ourselves. And so I love that you chose hope for that particular experience, and that it only took 3 days with Dad. Here I go, getting emotional like I promised I would. Christine, I'll come back to you. Share a story with me, if you could, about maybe one that stands out to you that just either gives you chills or just the tears like we talked about, or just you're talking to somebody and you want to just say, hey, here's what this does for people.
Oh my Lord. So there's
pick one, right? Good luck with that.
Pick one, because I was in the classroom for many, many years and worked with many populations, and each population. I mean, we worked with juvenile hall kids, and we have a program at Chalk Hospital, and there's like all these kids. I think, oh gosh, it's really hard. I'm gonna say it's not one individual, but it was one of our groups at Chalk Hospital, and these kids are oncology patients that have been through treatment, and they're getting back into society, and they're trying to figure out their way. And we would do our lessons there, and we would literally be there like an hour and a half afterwards, because these teens were challenged with, not only being faced with an illness that they could possibly die from, and we've lost patients over the years, in TLC groups, but they're also faced with just being a normal teen and what that looks like when you're dealing with an illness. I remember one of the teens, she used to play sports, and she had cancer in her arm, and she went to, I think she went to Newport Harbor. She did go to Newport Harbor, and she was just having a really hard time and very challenged by other kids, and their concepts and what they had to say about her illness and her arm and all that. And she would talk to us a lot afterwards. And I know that what they took from TLC, besides, like Tilly said, not feeling sorry for them, but having compassion for them, was really important. We came from a place of compassion and love and tolerance is our code. And I think that group was phenomenal. One of the kids from that group, he's not a kid anymore. He's 28 years old, and he works for TLC. And he took our course, and he's a 3-time cancer survivor. And the work was so profound with him that he now works for TLC. He's a co-facilitator, and he goes and he teaches. And we're very lucky to have him. So that group in particular, I think
that says volumes about any organization or anything, that you're the student first, and it becomes so ingrained in you. It's like, I have to do this. I have to help other people. You look at psychologists, for example, oftentimes are people who have dealt with a lot of trauma in their life, and someone along the way helped them through. And so now they want to help others as well. I think that's powerful. Right. Monica, I gave you the benefit of 2 people in front of you, so the question.
Absolutely. We have quite a few of those wonderful stories of students who have become facilitators of our program. And one in particular is a young man who had an estranged relationship with his abusive alcoholic father. And he also was impacted by the forgiveness class and realized that forgiveness was all about him, but he took it a step further, and he actually picked up the phone one day and told his father that he had forgiven him, that he had taken this class and he had forgiven him. And that touched his father so much that his father then vowed to him that through the strength that he'd been given from that forgiveness, that he was going to get sober. And they are still working on their relationship to this day. And it's just so powerful how, one person can make a change that in turn impacts all the others around them. And he's such a beautiful, wonderful young man. So.
Wow. Yeah, the power that's given to someone by forgiving them is massive. I've talked and thought about that a lot. All right, Tilly, back to you. Talk to me about the power of the words I am.
So it's basically the power of now,
Okay.
living the moment and believing it. And sometimes it's when we start, it's one of the big anchor of the main philosophy behind this program is how to shift negative energy to positive energy in every element of life. So it comes back in every subject. If it's in finance, I'm my own economist, or I'm part of the solution, or I'm enough, or I'm part of the community. We have so many classes that I can't even think about it right now. But there is 5 anchors that help you to shift your energy from negative to positive. And one of them is the positive affirmation. Is that how you call it, Christine?
Yes.
Positive affirmation. And basically, in the beginning, it's strange. I mean, if you feel that you are a failure, you cannot just say I'm successful. It doesn't, you can't jump that so far.
Yeah.
So, or if you think that girls sucks, that's what the boys say, then you cannot just say that girls are wonderful, but you can say that girls are challenging. And then you use a positive energy that getting you from this being stuck in a negative feelings. So I am strong, I am relaxed, I am positive, I'm one of a kind, I'm happy, I'm smart. All of those are examples of positive affirmation. That is one of the tools that they have to create in each subject. Depends on what they're trying to correct. In the beginning, it's strange for them, but very quick, I would say in 2 classes, they already got the idea and they love it. And they're creating little cards with their weekly positive affirmation, and they're taking it home, they're putting it by their sink, they're looking at a mirror and saying it, and they start to realize that then when they say it, they're in a positive energy because they say something positive about themselves. And when they say it out loud, then people start thinking about them like this too. So this is one of the very strong tools that we have that helping them shifting energy. That's the I am.
So I've seen some of the, thank you for that. I've seen some of the letters on your website and on your marketing materials from teenagers that have gone through the program, and they write at the top, I am. When you've looked at over the years now with the organization, what are some of the words, if you could say, I'd be curious, just as my kids are all grown now, but now we've got grandkids and they'll be teenagers in the near future. And we're all around teens, whether we're wherever we are. What are some of the most common words you see used? And this is a question for interview. I guess Monica, I'll start.
Christine,
Christine.
Read every
Sure.
letter. Come on, Christine.
What are you seeing more than anything, Christine?
One of my favorites is I am enough. It's actually a class that we do, but that's kind of also one of our core missions is just letting them know they're enough, helping build self-esteem and self-worth. It's an important foundation to be successful in life, as we all know. I'm resilient. It's also another class, but they say that a lot. I'm resilient. I am happy. I am one of a kind. I am peaceful. If you go on our website, again, I don't know if you went to the media, but we do public service announcements with the teens, and there's a plethora of them on there.
Yeah.
And at the end of each public service announcement, they do their IMs, and they're brilliant. I mean, sometimes they're really silly. Like one person did the other day, I am a dinosaur. Like,
I know that was.
So I'm like, okay, you're a dinosaur, like whatever.
That's the Zoom fatigue coming in, right?
Yeah. But most of them are really authentic. They're like, I'm brilliant. I'm a good friend. I mean, and these are things. There's a saying, and this, I don't know who said it. Many sages have said this, but they say that the most important words you'll ever say are the words you say after I am, right? And so it's just a practice, because, you know, adults can use this as well as teens. It's a practice to not say like, I'm stupid, or I shouldn't have said that, or I'm never going to get anywhere, you know, changing those grooves in your brain. Right. And so it's just a great practice, and they just take to it. Like Tilly said, they just, you know, they're fluid, they're flexible in their brain. So they're taking to it. There's a million I ams, but I think probably the strongest ones that for me is I am enough, because from knowing that, everything else is able to grow.
And it tells you where they came from. They've been
Right.
treated like they weren't. Okay, so I get to, since I'm the host of the show, I get to put the three of you on the spot, starting with Monica. I gave you the benefit of going last a moment ago. Now you get to go first.
First, okay.
All right, fill in the blank. I am. For you.
I am hopeful.
Why?
I am hopeful because this generation is so inspiring. Yes, they've got all of these issues and they are dealing with so many challenges, but they are so open and willing to change and do the work, and they're hungry for these sort of tools. And I am hopeful. They make me hopeful every day for the future.
Excellent. Thank you. Christine?
Gosh, I would probably say like, I would say I am persistent this year. And the reason I'm persistent is because I believe heart and soul that the kids need this, and it's changing lives. And I want to bring that change so desperately to every kid that needs it. It's truly like what's in my heart. So
Yeah.
I'm persistent.
Dang it, you took away my last question that I'm going to ask
Sorry.
in about 10 minutes, but that's all right, I'll ask it again. So Tilly, I am curious how you would answer
So
that today.
it's funny because when I wrote on my name tag, I'm a believer in a positive world. All the girls made me another card and they wrote, I'm tenacious. So yeah, I would say that I'm definitely tenacious, and I am a believer, and I feel that we need to fight with the right tools,
Right.
to achieve what we believe is right. And we should not stay passive. We need to go after what we believe is right, and we have to always be honest and never hurt anybody on the way. So we can only succeed with a peaceful tools. We have a class that called I'm a peaceful warrior. It's one of my favorite. And I take it to my life. We're successful, but we worked really, really hard. Nobody gave it to us on a silver platter. You have to work hard, and it has no boundaries, no limits, as long as it's in peaceful way.
Yeah. One of the words that comes up, not I am, but one of the words that comes up for me as I think about when, maybe not so much when my kids were teenagers, but teenagers in general, is the word resistance. And I saw a video that you did with Gary and Kelly a few years ago, Tilly, where there was a young girl on who I think at that time was 17. She had been cancer-free for 5 years. She, at age 11, was approached with this program. A lot of us have, one of the biggest issues that we have in our parent teenager relationship is that resistance of something. Hey, I've got this great idea, this program I think you should go through. Some parents will just push them and drag them there, and I'm sure you get some of those. And that's probably some of the biggest success stories are those that really, really resisted. Monica, what advice would you give to a parent who is dealing with a very resistant teenager who just won't do it, or is just so against change, or I don't have a problem? What do you say in those situations? And that question goes for any of you, but I'll start with you, Monica.
Well, if you can get them to try Tillys Life Center, we see this often. We have students who don't say a word for multiple classes, and then maybe by the 4th or 5th class, they just open up, and then
something triggers, right? Yeah.
And they've had this transformative experience, and they tend to be the ones that are the best peer support in the class and want to see the same transformation in the other students. So if they would just keep being persistent like Christine and try to get them to come to a class, they will eventually open up. And you know what? You're always planting those seeds. So sometimes even those quiet students who seem like they're not taking to the information surprise us with those letters at the end of the class at how much they've really, really learned and the tools that they've gained from the experience. So
Christian.
Pleasantly persistent.
yes, pleasantly.
Yeah, pleasantly persistent. So from the teenager perspective, Christine, they keep referring back to you, and you did yourself as well. What do you tell that teenager since you've been there?
Gosh, you know what? There's all kinds of tricks that you can use
I like that.
to do this stuff. But we know once we get them in there, they're gonna, and I'm not saying every kid, 100% proof, but for the most part, they're into it. We try to keep it very authentic and very cool, and it's almost like it's their group. We make group rules when our very first class, we talk to the group about, this is your group. You're setting the standards and the boundaries for this group. So we do a lot of stuff with them. We have a lot of fun. We take them to the fundraisers, and they love that. Luckily we're in school, so they have to go to the class, but we do have classes that parents have brought their teens to, and I've actually gotten on the phone with teens before because the parents are like, I want my teen to go, and like I'm on the phone with a teen, and our facilitators are super cool, and they're what most schools call kid magnets, those people that the kids just resonate with them. So once they're in there, they're like, oh, they're cool, and I'm gonna go. So no teen wants to hear that they're the problem. No teen wants to be identified as, it's usually not just the teen, it's a family dynamic, right?
Absolutely.
So nobody wants to be called out as the problem. We have that a lot of parents taking their kids, to counseling and to our program and saying, here, fix this kid, and this will fix everything. So it's a family dynamic, but I would say don't call your kid out and say that they're the problem, and offer it as a way to just embetter yourself or empower yourself. Don't identify it as like a mental challenge, or sometimes when they first get in the class, the kids are like, oh, this is therapy.
Right. Or and that old adage of, oh, I just want to fix you.
Is this a therapy class? And we're
Right.
like, no, this is not therapy, guys. Like, this is just how to live your life the best that you can. Those tools, that's all it is. It's like, helping you build that foundation to soar. So
do you do many family programs if a mother and father have a couple of teenagers or a teenager and you want to have them come in together? Again, not that you're therapy, I get that.
We've had siblings. We don't do parents, but we've had the siblings.
No, we don't do parents, but siblings.
And we bribe them with food.
Hey, if you feed me, I will come, right? Absolutely.
100%. Like we give them snacks, or on site, we gave them dinner every time they came. So, for teens, it's food, and then they get Tillys swag at the end, and that is word of mouth. Like, I go to this TLC class and we get swag at the end. So it's all of that,
I'm sure it helps that it comes, the foundation of this was the actual clothing store. Tilly, tell me about the biggest challenge from the time you launched the foundation till now. Any organization, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit or an association in the community, faces challenges and growing pains, but from
Can I add something to the previous question? Okay, because this is a good opportunity to actually express my gratitude to Tillys.
Great.
One of the, I think the thing that bribe them is that we do give them, Tillys are so generous and so good to us that they give them the opportunity to do tour at the Tillys headquarters. They're giving them a graduation party with pizza and little gifts. And I basically, when I have to talk, many times I have to talk to kids, and I basically telling them, you want to be successful? This is about how to be successful in life. Mm-hmm. And success is not money only, because if you're not happy and your mind is sick, you are not going to succeed. The minute they are in positive mind, all of a sudden their motivation is a lot higher. They want to study. They want to succeed. So this is about being successful. That's what I tell them. And a lot of the question that they ask me in the end of the graduation is, why did we do this program? They ask this many times. And I said, because you guys are the hero generation. We created a really terrible negative world here. I mean, open the news. It's all negative.
Can't
You
avoid it
can't
anymore.
trust the media. You can't trust anything. People are abusing people. There is so much negativity we created, and you are our heroes. You're going to change it. We're going to give you the tools in early age, so you're going to become much better parents, employees, and leaders, and you'll change this world to be a better place. So, yeah. And the most challenge, as every charity, obviously, is money, because I came from a business world that you do the work, you make money, but here you just spend money.
Exactly.
So it's very difficult to, I mean, we could have helped so many more kids if we have more money. And to get, and I said it every time that we have a fundraising event, that we cannot do it alone. We need all the help possible from our community. Some people, it doesn't have to be money. Some will maybe just make a connection with a principal or a superintendent or university, or give us an opportunity to do something like you doing to us. That's amazing. That's exposure and awareness for what we do. So we need the help of the community. We need exposure. We need everybody to understand that we cannot do this alone. And this is what we need to save this planet. Because if we get our youth to be mentally healthy, we will have a better world. Absolutely.
Monica, how do we reach you if somebody listening or watching today wants to reach out to Tillys Life Center and get involved? What's the best way to do so?
Absolutely. Our website is tillyslifecenter.org. So that's ORG. And of course, our emails are pretty simple. They're just our first name. So I'm Monica at tillyslifecenter.org and Christine and Tilly. And then, of course, I'll give my phone number on the air. Christine and I always do this, 949-246-3067. Please feel free to reach out anytime. And as Tilly said,
repeat the number slow.
And we'll put it in the notes too, but go ahead again.
Perfect. 949-246-3067.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know we're up against time and there's so many more questions that I have, and we're going to do this again because I really want to get deeper into, and we'll put with the website, and I've been on the website a lot. And I know that every question is pretty much answered there, and it's a really well thought out, and it's visually enticing, which needs to be, as you mentioned before. A teenager goes on to see what this is, they're right away, I think they're going to be pulled in because there's so many great things on there that are attractive to all of us about what you're doing. The last question that I always ask my guests, and I'm going to ask it in order, and I think I'll go Christine, Monica, and then Tilly, give you the final words since it is your name on the organization. Okay, prerogative of being the founder. The name of my podcast is From the Heart. I feel a little embarrassed asking this question because I think we just spent the last 55 minutes. Can't believe it's been that fast already. I think you've already, all three of you, expressed it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, who did I say was going first? Monica?
Christine.
Christine. Okay. You guys pick. No, I'm gonna pick you. Christine.
Okay.
What's in your heart?
So much, but if I had to define it and really narrow it down, I would say in my heart in all times is passion to support young people and help them realize their purpose.
Excellent. Thank you. Monica, same question. What's in your heart?
I think a lot of us feel this way right now, is just having a lot of gratitude for what we do have and our loved ones, and this opportunity to work such a meaningful, purpose-driven career. And, just so grateful for so much.
Thank you. And finally, as we wrap up today, Tilly, I can't thank you enough for not just the three of you today this time, but for what you're doing, and that you followed your heart, and that you looked back at your own past and your own upbringing and looked at the needs. And I'm sure that in your time running Tillys, the clothing store, you probably saw a lot of teenagers, not just your employees, but people coming in and shopping. And it just probably broke your heart with some of the things that you saw. So I'm not trying to lead you in my question here, because you're probably going to go somewhere else that I'm not thinking about. But to wrap up our time together today, Tilly Levine, what's in your heart?
Okay, so first I just want to correct because
Okay.
I don't run Tillys. Okay, I'm actually a
Right.
co-founder, and just my partner, actually my ex-husband, he runs, and he's behind this successful change. So I don't want to take this credit.
Okay, that's okay.
And so basically, what's in my heart is I'm again coming back to what Monica said, that it's all gratitude. Gratitude that I am able to do what I'm doing, that it's huge blessing for me to be able to give, that I got this opportunity. And it's gratitude for Chezi, my ex-husband, being so kind to the family, and gratitude for Tillys executive, how they're supporting us, and for the board members that putting their time and effort to help voluntarily, and everybody else that's supporting us, because in my heart, this needs to be everywhere. Every kid should be able to get those tools in his youth. And I'm super grateful for all the support we get to make this dream come true.